Well, we've all known and loved Julie Andrews in a variety of roles, musical, dramatic, as a dancer. Well, time now to see her as a psychiatrist in The Man Who Loved Women, also starring Burt Reynolds. Julie Andrews, as a psychiatrist, I guess you all automatically represent that dream that all men would have of a woman who is serene, thoughtful, intelligent. Now, Burt Reynolds' character responds to that woman in the film, and I'd like you to share with us, if you would, how you saw that dynamic in preparing for the role. You as an analyst and Burt as a troubled man. How did you prepare for this?
Well, I did a lot of, I asked a lot of questions of a very eminent analyst, and did a lot of research on it. I wanted it to be correct. I didn't want to make any mistakes. It's a hard question to answer because actually the research was really the basis for it all. I had to decide where my character was coming from, what perhaps her own background had been, and so on. That helped.
It's often been said that in acting, one of the hardest things to learn is to listen. And in this role as a psychiatrist, of course, that's one of the principal things you have to do, is
a lot
listen.
of listening.
So has it proven out to you that that is indeed one of the toughest things about a role, is to listen?
Yes, to listen and to be very still. And in the case of this character, to be non-reacting, because as the psychoanalyst, I had to be kind of very, very so still that I couldn't react if he was trying to make me laugh or if he was getting angry at me or something like that. One had to just be passive.
You're one of a number of women who fall in love with Burt Reynolds. Whether or not Burt Reynolds is in love with you, I suppose sometimes is a little bit problematic. He does keep going from woman to woman, it would seem. I'm curious if you could step out of the role for a moment. Let's say that you have encountered a person like Burt in your own life. Would you have found him attractive, that little boyish quality? Or what would have been the things you would have found attractive?
Well, if it's the character in the film that you're referring to,
yes.
I would have indeed found him attractive, because this particular character is not exactly a womanizer, not at all
indeed,
a womanizer.
Indeed.
And in fact, every woman that he meets is made to feel very special. He has such a quality about him that he gives to them, to each lady that he meets, something very special. They're the better for having known him. So I presume if I were to meet that character, I would too fall in love, as I do in the film.
The idea that many of the women, at least in his life, would want a commitment, and the commitment is the difficult part for him.
Yes.
And yet the women, you included, do not mind knowing about the presence of the other women.
Well, that's because of his special quality. Yeah. It seems. There's no envy. The analyst says there's no envy, no jealousy, no rage between us. All the women seem to understand that he was that special.
One of the saddest things about this tragi-comedy, I think it's a fair way to put it.
Kind of bittersweet comedy, really,
Indeed
isn't it?
Indeed it is.
Yes.
And you are so troubled when you have to leave, knowing that the relationship will not be what you wished it to be. Share with us that aspect of Blake's work now, in which quite often a bit of pathos will be accompanying the comedy. Is that part of the plan from the beginning?
On Blake's part?
Yes.
I think that quite often Blake's movies leave you, you have a wonderful time watching them, and then they leave you thinking about a slightly deeper issue. 10 certainly made you think about middle-age menopause for men and things like that. I think that the body of his work these days is leaning towards that. He's kind of, I guess, in his prime as a filmmaker, and something kind of important really emerging.
Well, the sadness of Robert Preston, say, in Victor Victoria,
yes.
There is something of that in that film as well.
That's right, yes. Well, they're human, they're not just stereotypes, I think.
I would suppose you've been asked this before, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway, about the nature of the ensemble work in A Man Who Loved Women. The Edwards clan, if you will, is everywhere present. Share with us, if you would, how that is working out and who's coming along now that's
It's kind of
involved.
a first in a way, or it's not exactly a first. Our daughter Jenny was also in SOB. We were all in that together. But it is something that's, I guess, as they get older and as they begin their careers, something that Blake's beginning to incorporate. I'm not saying that he'll do it in every movie, and but when it's there and when it's right, why not use it? It's kind of nice, I think. It's a great pride for Blake to have his son help him with a screenplay, and certainly to see his daughter being so good in the movie as she is, and so lovely in this film. And for me, it's wonderful too, because I kind of watch her and see her blossoming, and it's nice.
I know I speak for many of our viewers when I say that as much as I admire your dramatic work, whenever you are not singing, I'm somehow saddened just a bit. And I'm wondering what singing roles, television or film, are coming up that we can be looking forward to.
Oh, I hope lots, because I enjoy it too. The trouble is that musicals these days, whether they be on Broadway or on film, cost so much. Big budget films are hard to get going, and wonderful musicals, and especially musicals, original ones written for the screen, are kind of rare. And so they don't just float by every day, and one doesn't just take one's pick. One hopes that something will come along, and I really hope it does.
And somewhere in the middle of all of that, your career as a book writer for children is burgeoning, and as soon as I get out of here, I'm going to go look up some of these books. I've been hearing about them from other journalists. Tell me about some of the titles, when they have come out, and how they're doing.
I've only written 2 books. I'm on my 3rd. The first book is simply called Mandy, and the second book has the improbable title, The Last of the Really Great Whangdoodles. And,
the really great
Whangdoodles.
Of course.
Of course.
Yes.
You know them, don't you?
I believe so. I remember them from my own youth, I think. Have you had a chance to test out these stories on children of your acquaintance?
My own kids, bless their hearts, are so tactful and patient and loving with me, because when I'm in doubt, I say, can I read you a chapter, or can I read you something? And they're so wonderfully honest, and I can sense immediately if there's, stifling a yawn or bored to tears, and then the work goes out immediately. But if they're not bored, then I get a good indication that maybe it's okay.
Must be interesting watching their reactions to some of your earlier films.
Our little ones especially.
Seeing them recycled in that sense through their eyes.
I mean, our 8- and 9-year-old have only really recently seen Sound of Music and Mary Poppins, and it's sweet to see it. Our littlest one actually fell asleep during The Sound of Music and thought that the intermission was the end of the movie.
Julie Andrews in The Man Who Loved Women, one of a number of women that Burt Reynolds loves in that film, and I think he's displaying remarkably good taste. Watch for her on the psychoanalyst couch. It's an experience indeed. The Man Who Loved Women, directed by Blake Edwards. I'm John Tibbetts. Thank you.